Were the Pilgrims the bad guys in history? I think not. And I'll tell you why today on the Daily Download. Okay, so it's fashionable in some corners of the internet and classrooms in some academic settings to try to tarnish this whole Plymouth Rock Thanksgiving event. It's a beautiful part of the American story, a part of our mythology even, and it says something important about what we value as a country and maybe the kind of things that you want to pass along to your children during Thanksgiving. But there are those that want to tarnish this moment and talk about how horribly the colonists treated the Native Americans. And of course, there's something to that, but it all happened later. What was talked about, the story that we've been telling our children about the beauty of what happened at Plymouth that day, that part is still true. And I would encourage anyone who's a parent or an educator in this week leading up to Thanksgiving to unapologetically tell this good story. Proudly celebrate this first Thanksgiving for what it was. As far as anyone knows, these good people showed nothing but Christian charity and grace to the Native Americans that they met, and so was the case in the kindness that the American Indians showed to those first colonists at Plymouth. They learned from one another, they seemed to care for each other and provide good things for each other, and they built enough of a friendship to invite them to join them in a grand celebration of it all on that first Thanksgiving celebration. Within a couple of decades, similarly-minded Baptists would come to Rhode Island, and they too would seek equitable relationship with the Native American tribes, insisting that they should buy the land that they would inhabit. Now, in our age of broad race-driven declarations and accusations, it should be noted that not everyone who came from England behaved or thought the same. Other groups who were not separatists, like the group at Plymouth, or Baptists, like those in Rhode Island, but members of the Church of England or Puritans, would arrive around 50 years later and declare war with the same tribe of Indians that the Plymouth colony had had dinner or had celebration all of those years before. But by that time, all the people who had been at that early Thanksgiving event had long passed away. There was a difference in the Plymouth Pilgrims and the Puritans who came later, and it's just bad history to treat all people of any skin color as the same. Not all the white people who were at these events in the colonies were the same people. They didn't treat those they met in the same way. And while we're at it, not all of the indigenous tribes were the same as those tribes that had been involved in the Plymouth event either. Many of those tribes were violent and had been in violent conflicts with other tribes for generations. Many of the New England tribes fought against other tribes and alongside the colonists during this time of upheaval, and they did so viewing the colonists as allies that would help them to overcome their long-held rivals. This was a complicated and sometimes tragic time in history, and it was also punctuated by a lot of disease that nobody had any control of that brought about the decimation of many of these tribes. But the reality of that earnest Thanksgiving celebration in 621, it stands up to historical scrutiny. We should unapologetically teach Thanksgiving to our children and grandchildren because this event was beautiful and it is an important part of our history. The people that gathered there really did give thanks for what God had given them, and they were sincere in their friendship with the Native Americans that they had met, and so it seems the other way as well. These events are not related. The death of all the Native Americans in the Northeast and what happened with Bradford's church on that first Thanksgiving, they're not connected. So celebrate Thanksgiving. Be grateful for this moment between the Bradford church, these separatists who had come seeking religious liberty and a new start with God, who had an ethic that represented the Jesus ethic and who treated the Native Americans with respect and dignity. Celebrate the fact that this happened at this moment in history. If anything, maybe the Thanksgiving story is an important part of our Christian history because it says what happened in the beginning at Plymouth Colony could have been the story that was the story of the relationship between the first colonists and the Native Americans. There was a different way to go than what the Puritans would later choose, and maybe some of the more violent tribes would choose as well. Well, this is the story of Thanksgiving that we ought to celebrate, and I hope that you will. I love you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday.